Hey guys, how are all the basic mates we need to know in chess? And how fast can I give them? These are the questions we are going to answer in this video, starting with the easiest mate with 2 rooks and finishing with the hardest mate with bishop and knight. And you don't want to miss how fast I can do this one. Keep watching. So I will explain a basic method to give each mate, and we'll play later in a challenge in a feature from chess.com, trying to do it as fast as possible. Let's go. So let's start with king and 2 rooks versus king. The idea here is that we are going to control line after line with the 2 rooks, and then when we push the king towards the edge, it's going to be checkmate. We can use the ranks for this. Also, we can do it over the files, and it's more or less the same idea. So the first move is going to be cutting off the king. Say the king moves anywhere, then we can coordinate the rooks. The idea is to go over there, and well, this time we cannot go here, but we can go over the other side. And then now we control this rank, and then we repeat the same idea rank after rank until we already have the mate. Here we have basic mate with king and queen versus king. The idea is that we're going to push the king towards the edge of the board, then we're going to use our king, and using both of them connected, coordinated, we will give the mate. So if you want to push the king towards the edge, there are some ways to do it, but if you move your queen on L shape from the king will have to move towards the corner or the edge of the board. So that's what I'm going to do. First of all, I will cut off the king, and then we start with the L shape method. And you keep moving this way, always in L shape, and well, at some point the king will have to go to the edge. Be careful when the king goes to the corner, do not stalemate the king, so just play king here. Now the king is on the edge, so what we need to do is to bring the king, and then we will have mate. And this is basic mate with king and rook versus king. One more time, our king is going to be very important. The first move is going to be cutting off the king, and the idea here is that we're going to be pushing the king rank after rank towards the edge, but our king is going to be controlling 3 squares in front of the enemy king, as the rook is going to be controlling the other 3 squares, which means the king will have to go back. So I will need to wait for black king to take a position. When that happens, I'm controlling these squares with the king and controlling these squares with the rook, because I will give the check here, and then the king will have to go back. That's the idea. So I will always be waiting for black king to take opposition. At some point they will have to do it, even if they don't want, they will have to, and then you control another rank, and you repeat this idea as many times as you need until the king is on the edge of the board. And then once the king is on the edge, we repeat it again, but this time it is going to be checkmate. So it's going to be like this. basic mate with 2 bishops. We are going to use the same idea we do with the 2 rooks. In the case of the rooks, we use the files or ranks, but with the bishops we need to use diagonals. Something important is that when we use diagonals, like controlling here after this one, after this one, after this one, at some point the bishops will stop controlling some important square and the king will try to escape over that square. So we will need to use our king to make sure the enemy king is not escaping over that square. So it could be like this. I'm going to coordinate the king. I'm going to push the black king over there, and I'm going to use my bishops like this, controlling diagonal after diagonal. So if my white king comes like here, now we can give a check, controlling everything, and the king goes here, we give the check. But say the king goes here, now we shouldn't play bishop here immediately because black king is escaping our e4. This is where I was saying, here we need to use the king to control, and now we are threatening this. The king can get closer to our bishops, that can happen, but we just go to the other side, for example, and then we will be able to give the check at some point. Right now we can't, the king is escaping, we control here or here, so when the king moves, we have the check. And then we repeat this method until we have the king in checkmate position. And it could be something like this. When the king gets closer, we move to the other side, and then we control with the king the escape, and then we give the check. And one more time we are going to continue controlling another diagonal. Once the king is already on the edge of the board, it's going to be more or less simple. With one bishop you control one square, with the other bishop you control the other, and very often we want to make sure the king is not escaping by putting the bishop on this diagonal. So now you finish the work with check and mate. And this is the hardest basic mate with bishop and knight. The idea here is that we want to push the king towards the corner with the same color as our bishop. That's something we cannot force so easily. However, it's more or less simple to force the king to another corner, to the opposite colored corner. So the idea is that we will force the king here, and then there is a forced line, forced method, something we can learn, and we will push the king from one wrong corner to the right corner, and then we will have the mate. So I like to say there are like 3 basic steps to give this mate. First of all, we activate our king, bishop and knight as much as possible. Then we force the king to go to the wrong corner. That's something we can do. And finally we force the king to go from the wrong corner to the right corner. Also something we can do. So it could be like this. First step, activating our minor pieces, bishop and knight. Notice the knight is controlling the squares the bishop is not controlling. That's a good combination. Secondly, we try to force the king to go to the wrong corner, like pushing a little over there. We'll make some random moves at some point here. And once you have this, that's the second step. Then there is a forced way to win, something you can learn, and it is like controlling square after a square over here until the king is on the right corner and we have the mate. So it could be something like this. We control with the bishop, now we control c8 with the knight, and then we continue controlling with the bishop d8, then we will control e8. So this is the idea. Once the king is in the corner, the mate is going to be more or less simple. You just need to find the right order of the moves. So if you guys have any question, I would be happy to interact in the comments. Thank you, like, subscribe, see you on the next.